Okay, so is anybody else in here, or is it just GP? I mean, are you guys listening, or because I don't want to do this if it's just him, because he already knows it. All right, you guys good? All right, so this is what I have next to my computer. You guys already have access to this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But previous day bias, I like to take a look at the daily chart, and actually that was really valuable this week for Friday's trades. Um, I have a couple videos on that as well if you guys want to look at that on the YouTube or whatnot. But the main thing with the strategy is the H4 opening price. So 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m. is what I use. You can use London 2 a.m. if you want as well. Um, just want to take longs above the price, above the opening price, and or sorry, take longs below the opening price and take shorts above the opening price. Higher time frame SMT, not necessary, but I do like to look at that as well as like cycle SMTs um, at the point of entry. Um, the next most important thing is a sweep of a 90-minute cycle or a 30-minute cycle. I'm not going to trade unless we do one of those. So, um, and then also a 10-minute cycle sweep within the 30 is also something I look for as well for higher probability. Within a macro, so I like to see the high or the low created within the macro window or around the half hour. So 10:30 especially is a good time. Other than that, I'm not really wanting to trade outside the macro window. And then key levels, so 50 levels, 100 levels, like 700, 750, 800, 850, that type of stuff. I like to see price close to that level or interacting with that level before taking a trade. Any questions on that specific page here? No, I like to see it below or above significantly. Like if the CSD occurs right at the opening level, I don't really like it. I like it to be above the price, trending above the price. I can kind of show you examples here in a second. Any other questions on that page? Okay, and then the entry is this here. So turtle soup, I like to see this stuff happen in order. So turtle soup first. For me, it's just a cycle high. So like if we take a 30-minute cycle high, that's a turtle soup. If we take a 10-minute cycle high, that's a turtle soup. But I need it to happen on a 30-minute cycle before I'm even going to consider the trade. So that's going to be my turtle soup. There's a 30-minute cycle high taken out. And then I want to see the reversal happen after that. So preferably I want an IFVG to happen first and be completely closed in. And then a CISD, which forms the order block, and that's going to be where I lay on the first order. And then after that, I like to see a fair value gap, and I like to see the breaker used as support or resistance. And you can also layer in orders at the fair value gaps and at the breaker as well. The one thing is the fair value gap inversion. So the inversion fair value gap, that doesn't have to happen. I suggest using that at first, like when you're first starting the strategy, make sure every trade has that fair value gap in it that gets inverted. But you don't necessarily have to have it. And another way to get the fair value gap inversion is, if you have the CSD on a 1 minute and there's no inversion fair value gap, then drop down to the 15-second and see if you see one there. You can go to the 5-second as well, but it's not recommended. I would really just stick to the 1 minute when you first start the strategy, and stick to the strict rules, and then from there you can kind of like branch out from it. Any questions on this order of reversal? Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to some examples. So we'll just do this week. I have a few from this week, so we'll start here. This is Friday, 3 p.m. So let me bring up a drawing tool. It helps me here. All right, so we have the opening price here at 2 p.m. We start above, then we drop down below. We take a 30-minute cycle, and then we also take a 10-minute cycle. So the 30-minute cycle low is taken there, the 10-minute cycle low is taken there, and then we have another 10-minute cycle low taken there. That's what I have marked for the TS, the turtle soup. These aren't necessary. This one is. So the 30-minute cycle low has to be swept, or else I'm not considering a trade. We also have to be below the opening price for me to consider a buy. CSD occurs here, okay, at the closure of this candle. That's the CSD, so that can be your first order. And then, you know, the breaker is a little subjective here because there are multiple breakers. Like you have this breaker here. Technically it's this. That's the technical breaker, but if you zoom into a lower time frame, the breaker will be in that wick. So the breaker, don't worry about marking it. The real focus should be the CSD, trying to find the CSD and make sure you're below the previous 30-minute cycle. So anyhow, that confirms it. And then, you know, we have we have a fair value gap. We have a turtle soup, a breaker. The only thing we don't have is an inversion. So we don't have an inversion here, but I would still consider this valid because if you zoom in, you'll see an inversion. You'll see an inversion on the 15-second within these two candles. And then we get above the breaker. We also drop below 3 p.m. price. This is what I like to use as well. I like to use the hourly opens. So if I see an hourly open low, I'm thinking long. And then the target is here. The target's there. So previous 30-minute cycle high, which happens to be the 90-minute cycle high, which happens to be the high of the day as well. We're close to the 150 area here. And I don't know if we have SMT, to be honest. We might have an SMT here. I'm not sure. I don't really require that in my trade. So I don't really look at it as much. If I'm uncertain about a trade or something, I'll look to see if there's SMT to give me some more confluence. But yeah, I don't necessarily need it. So any questions on this particular trade here? No, that's a good question. So what I do is keep the stop below the low for a very long time, because the whole idea of this trade is that you're in the wick of the 2 p.m. candle. So I'm basically picking the bottom, right? So like I'm saying this is the bottom of the wick, the bottom of the candle, and we're gonna shoot higher. Okay, so I'll keep my stop here for a very long time until we really displace above the breaker, above the CSD, and start supporting price with a fair value gap. And then I'll start to trail my stop. But you know, if we're trading reversals and we're saying that's the low, there's no reason for me to bring my stop up here or bring my stop here before it's really confirmed. So I'll leave it at the very bottom until it's significantly above. So typically what I like to see is something like what just happened here, where we make a new high, and then I'll drag my stop here until we make a new low and make a new high, and then maybe I'll drag my stop there. But I'm not looking to reduce risk a whole lot. What I'm really wanting to do is add to the winner. I'm wanting to add to the winning trade. So I'll start with like one contract right here at the CSD. Maybe add another one in through here, just depending on what happens, and then I'll really start to add on later as price confirms that I'm right. But I'll risk such a little amount at first that I don't care to just leave my stop. Does that answer your question? Any other questions on this example? All right, so same trade. We just drop down into the 15-second. And here you can see the fair value gap. So the whole point of the fair value gap for me, the inversion fair value gap, is to see some sort of displacement, to see some sort of solid movement in price. I don't want to see just like wick, just everywhere. Like that's why I really want to see a fair value gap, because to me that's good price movement when you have like a nice downward leg with a fair value gap in it and it gets inverted. That shows a lot of momentum in my eyes. But this is basically the zoomed in version of what we just saw in the 1 minute. Not a whole lot to this, to be honest. I just wanted to show you the inversion fair value gap on the 15-second. Any questions on that? Okay. Next one. So another example from Friday. This one's actually outside the macro though, but I wanted to show you this because it has everything else other than being within the macro. So this is something that I would consider taking because it has every other thing I'm looking for, plus some higher time frame arrays that price came into. So we have the 10 a.m. price. We're below the price. We're below the opening price, and we've taken these 30-minute lows. We've taken a 90-minute low, and we've hit the previous month's high. So right there, previous month's high. That's what you need to keep that stuff on your chart. I'm pretty sure you guys probably do because you're in Zeus's mentorship. So you want to keep those things on your chart. It's at the 100 level, 22,100. We have SMT. We have an inversion fair value gap. We have CSG confirmed here. We have a breaker, and we have a fair value gap. Now this one really doesn't give a lot of chances for entry. There is SMT, which can give you a good chance to get in, because once you see ES make this low and NQ make the higher low, that'll give you extra confidence to add a few more positions before it takes off. First target would be 10 a.m. open. Second target, previous 30-minute cycle high. Third target, the end of the buy model, the original consolidation on the left side of the curve. Any questions on this one? Okay. Friday, 7 a.m. This is a buy model as well. So we have 6 a.m. open. This is the trade I took at Friday. Held it all day. So this one had some higher time frame stuff involved with the daily bias and all that. That's why I held it all day. But let's just focus on the trade from this H1 BISI here to the 6 a.m. open, because that right there is enough to, that's plenty, you know what I mean? That's 60 points or so. So we open, we don't form a wick, which is very important. That's something you'll see a lot, and that makes me extra bullish when we open without a wick and just drop lower. So we get down into the H1 BISI, we have SMT down here, and we have multiple CSDs. So we have the 1 minute CSD here, okay, confirmed with this candle here, the closure. We have a breaker, we have an inversion, we have some fair value gaps. If you're unsure about this, you can wait for the CSD here. It's a little bit more clean with the inversion below, and we confirm it there. Okay, we're below the previous 30-minute cycle high, and we've taken out a 10-minute cycle low as well. And this one's just really, really clean. It has everything: higher time frame, PD array, draw and liquidity would be higher for the day. Yeah, I mean, this is about as perfect as it gets. We have a round number here, a 50 level. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about this one. Any questions on this particular trade? Okay, and so this was the same trade on the 5-second. This is where I got my first entry. So I didn't enter right at the CSD. I just happened to glance down at the 5-second when all this was happening, and I saw a nice move here where we took liquidity and then formed the model, the reversal model. So we have the turtle soup, SMT, CISD, we have a breaker, and we formed a fair value gap and supported it right there. So this is kind of just breaking down that lower time frame where we didn't have the inversion fair value gap on the 1 minute. This is more complex. Just really, I would recommend sticking to the 1 minute if you haven't traded this strategy before. But I just wanted to show you what it looks like on the 5-second. Any questions on that? All right, and we have a couple shorts. So this is from Tuesday, 3 p.m. So we have 2 p.m. open. We run higher. We take out a 30-minute cycle. We take out a 90-minute cycle high. We're bumping into the daily open price. We also have SMT on this with ES at the highs. Between this high and this high, there's SMT. We have a turtle soup here. So this one barely takes the high. It barely takes that 30-minute cycle high. And then you get the CSD. So the CSD confirms here with the closure of this candle. We have a tiny inversion here, and breaker, and some fair value gaps that support price as resistance, all the way down to the first target, 2 p.m. open, second target, previous 30-minute cycle, ultimate target would be 90-minute cycle low. I don't think we hit it on this trade, but yeah, any questions on that one? Okay, Last one, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Short. This is all from last week. 10 a.m. open. We run higher. We take a 30-minute cycle high. We take a 10-minute cycle high. We invert the fair value gap here. We perform a CSD with this candle closure here. There's a breaker, fair value gap. Fair value gap supports price at the 850 level. And we open at 11 a.m., don't really do anything, consolidate. We wait on the next macro, and we sell off. First target would be 10 a.m. open, previous 30-minute cycle low, previous 90-minute cycle low. This was a nice one. This right here took too long, in my opinion. It's hard to sit in a trade like this when it just consolidates. But nevertheless, the trade works out. You have to have a little patience here to sit through the consolidation. Any questions on that? Okay. Any questions in general regarding the strategy? Do I like to incorporate AMD? Is that what you said? Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it, but I mean, if you want to look at it that way, it's basically all AMD, because during a 30-minute cycle you'll have AMD, during a 90-minute cycle you'll have AMD. You know what I mean? Like you'll have the accumulation, it manipulates, and then we distribute. But really the only place I'll actually look for it is within the 30-minute cycle. I don't have any examples with a 10-minute cycle marked, but what I like to see is the first 10-minute cycle sit here, have the second 10-minute cycle come up and take the high, and have the third 10-minute cycle start to distribute all within that 30-minute cycle. Those are going to be the cleanest when you have the AMD within the 30-minute cycle. But other than within the 30-minute cycle, I'm not really looking for it. I'm not really paying attention to it, because if I look at it at the higher time frame, it just confuses me, because especially around New York Open, I mean, you'll have two distribution cycles. If it's seek and destroy, it's just going to go like that, and that's not AMD. So I don't even look for it on the higher time frame. I mean, if you're going to look at it from the daily profile, maybe, but that's about the extent of AMD that I use, is just within the 30-minute cycle itself. Any other questions? Looks like we had a few people join later. Either of you guys have questions? I mean, I know GP is good on this stuff. Like JC, Naya, Pace. Any of you guys have questions? I mean, I don't care to answer. Okay. It is very straightforward. I mean, yeah, you're welcome. Is there any way to tell? When you go on the second chart? Yeah, no problem. Let me see. He has a question here. Is there any way to tell if it will only turtle soup a 10-minute cycle, 30-minute cycle, or 90-minute cycle as it relates to a reversal or switching from a buy model to a sell model? I don't understand that question. Do you want to clear that up for me? Or does anybody else understand what he's asking me? So, I mean, I'll just answer. The thing I look for is 30-minute cycles. That's my primary. I'll only look for a 30-minute cycle. I'm not going to look at a 10-minute cycle unless I have a 30-minute cycle high or low swept. Does that answer your question? So if you go back to one of your examples, some time price will turtle soup a 10-minute cycle and then turtle soup a 30-minute cycle before it reverses. Yeah, so I mean, I'm only looking for a 30-minute cycle first. So I'm not even going to look at 10-minute cycles until we get this. Okay, and then I'm going to look for a CSD after that. It just gives me extra confirmation if we have like the first 10-minute cycle and then we sweep the first 10-minute cycle and then do a CSD. But I'm not basing any trade on a 10-minute cycle alone without the framework of the 4-hour open, 30-minute cycle, hourly open. I mean, the 10-minute cycle is irrelevant, honestly. You really don't even need to think about it or use it. I just use it just to give me more confidence in the trade. Yeah, so trending, I mean, so like, honestly, this week was trending, in my opinion. Like, we just were bullish all week. So it's really not the best for a trending environment. You only get a couple chances during the day. Like Friday pretty much trended all day, and this was really your only opportunity to get long until the PM session, because we didn't have a 30-minute cycle low taken like hardly anywhere throughout the day, and until the PM. So yeah, when it's trending, it's not the best. I mean, I have a continuation model that I'll use for a trending environment, but I think there's a video on that actually. I think I've shared that on YouTube or on the Discord, but no, this is strictly reversals only, and you just have to realize when it is trending and realize like I need to stay out or use a different model, because you're only going to get 1 or 2 chances throughout the whole entire day to get on board with the trend. Does that answer your question? It's on my YouTube, but I wouldn't start there. I would start with this. I would start with reversals because it happens enough during the week and during each day that there's plenty of opportunity there before you go into the next continuation model. I mean, honestly, I would just, if you're going to trade continuation and you're in a really trending environment, just use Turbo's model. Just use the 10-minute cycle SMT and just get on board later in the trend. I mean, you can look at this trade here, say you miss, like say this is a higher time frame, and say you miss the initial entry, you can use Turbo's model on a 10-minute cycle and find an SMT like maybe here, and just get on board and take it to the terminus, take it to the target. His model's really good for continuation. That's what I use his model for, kind of adding into my own trades, and then as a continuation. I'm looking more higher time frame type stuff, trying to be in a wick of a 4-hour candle. But honestly, I would recommend his for trending. Any other questions regarding anything? I mean, any other questions on the strategy, or anything that's unclear? Oh, okay. Let me check. One of the previous videos you spoke about the 2, 6, 10 candle openings. Can you elaborate on that? Yeah, I mean that's the main thing, you know. So the 4-hour candle openings, that's what makes this strategy, because it's like a filter. If you use that as like a filter, so if I open and I'm below the 4-hour open, I'm not even going to short. I'm not even thinking about shorting whatsoever. So that takes out 50% of the problem. You know what I mean? I only have to worry about finding a long, and then, you know, to even think about getting into a trade, I have to have a 30-minute cycle low taken out. So that limits some more variables, and then everything else has to occur as well. At a 50 level, you know, all the things I already discussed. So that's kind of the premise of this whole strategy, is that like I limit the variables and kind of put everything on my side before I even get on a trade. Because if I'm trading a reversal, I'm not going to be, you don't want to be above price. You don't want to be above opening price. It just doesn't make sense logically for a reversal to occur if you're already above the open. Because at that point you're in the body of the candle and you're trending in the body. So this is the main thing. You see the open and you go lower, you're only thinking I'm going to buy, because you're thinking the candle is making the wick, and I'm just going to get on the bottom of the wick, or get on, you know, if you miss it, just get on a little later into a fair value gap. But that's the whole logic behind this strategy, is using the 4-hour candles to frame your overall trade, so that way you put yourself in the best position to get long or to get short. It just doesn't make sense to be above a 4-hour open trying to catch a reversal long, because that's a continuation. You know what I mean? Like, if you're already above the open, you're in continuation mindset, continuation mode. So that's what you should be thinking if your draw on liquidity is higher. If I'm above 6 a.m. open or 10 a.m. open, I'm only thinking short, because it's not going to reverse down below the open. That would be continuation. So that's kind of like my mindset when I'm looking at the opening prices. Same thing with the hourly. I like to really use the hourly opens in this strategy as well. So like, you know, we have the 6 a.m. open, like say this doesn't occur till 7, and 7 opens up and runs lower. So then we have 6 a.m. here, and we have 7 a.m. here, and then we form the reversal down here. And that's really, really good, because you're below the 7 a.m. open, you're below the 6 a.m. open. So I'll use the hourly candles in that as well. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Does everybody kind of understand the logic of why it is what it is? I mean, you want to limit your variables. or else you'll never be able to see like what works. You have to have strict rules, limit your variables, and just start process of elimination. You know what I mean? Like if you want to tweak this strategy around, go ahead and do it, but just tweak one thing at a time. Add one thing at a time. Take one thing away at a time. Or just stick to the. I mean, this works. So like, just stick to this and only do this, and you'll make money. You'll make money with this. Like, this isn't a secret strategy, by the way. Like, I don't have any claim to fame on this or anything. It's more about discipline and implementing the same thing over and over and over again. If you do that enough with any strategy, you're going to win. You're going to be successful as long as the strategy has a little bit of an edge. So, just to be clear, this strategy is not the holy grail. This is not anything crazy or like, it's just a normal strategy. It's about discipline and repetition. That's the only way you make it. Any other questions regarding the strategy or? Chris, do you have any questions? I see you just popped in here. I know you had a question earlier. I think we might have answered it though, but if you guys are good, I'm good. I'll post this on the YouTube and I'll share it with you guys so you can watch it. Just so you know, nothing is like, I'm not promoting my YouTube or anything. It's just easy for me to put all my stuff on there so I can watch it myself if I ever need to, or so anybody else can watch it. But I'm not like making money or anything off of it. I have like 20 followers, so. Are we good? You guys good? All right. See you guys. Y'all have a good weekend. I'll see you next week.